everyone. Top 4, and then we've got one more after this on this wonderful Sunday PC for our double header between Second Total Play and POW Gaming. All right, I think that's all. Okay.
Yeah, no, this has been a great weekend.
Yeah.
A lot of good play.
It's been a very, very long weekend. We're gonna get right into it, into your top 4. You've seen them before. In Swiss, it's Alberto, Lara, and you know, if you've been watching any regionals or Oceania all this like year, you've seen his name multiple times. And Everett, Fillloon, who actually drove up here from San Diego to join us. So I thank you, Everett. I really appreciate that.
No, and also, I mean, he's a guy I team build with personally, right? And he's been putting in the work. He definitely deserves to be here. I see him online every day. Just like everyone's just team building together.
You sound like a proud dad. So happy Father's Day to you for this. But we are going.
I am a proud friend for sure.
I'm a proud friend, Dad, right now. But we are going to see actually Everett's team on your screen now. It's gonna be that Mirko, Great Tusk, Golden Go, Gothitelle, Iron Hands, and Glamora versus Alberto's team, which technically really needs no introduction, but we are still going to do it anyway. It'll be that Klefki, Corviknight, Garchomp, Chi-Yu, Roaring Moon, and Fluttermane. Got that in right after they finished locking in all of their teams. I mean, like Swiss, we saw like this Golden Go and this Mirko just do absolute like horrendous damage to everything. I honestly, like, I think it's been so long since I've seen a Steel Terrasilize Golden Go, and I say a really long time as if I didn't just watch Everett do it in round 1 of this tournament, but like overall, you know?
Yeah, and we got the leads here. Gothitelle Iron Hands against Fluttermane Chi-Yu. Both pretty standard leads, right? And Gothitelle, I mean, depends, but here we see he goes straight for the Trick Room Sword Dance. I would say it's a very passive play, but I mean,
if Alberto can punish that, right, then like Everett's in a really bad spot. But we are gonna see the normal terrestrialization here on that Gothitelle. Really fantastic choice. I really appreciate the fact that this Gothitelle's a normal type, because there's very like few things that can really hit it except for maybe Iron Hands. But we're also gonna see a protect from the Chi-Yu on Alberto's side of the field, leaving this Fluttermane to go for the Shadow Ball. Isn't gonna be able to connect with that Gothitelle because it is no longer affected by Ghost type moves. And that Iron Hand said, "Hey, I'm free to set up a Sword Dance now," and also that Gothitelle said, "Well, you can't do anything about it. We're gonna set up Trick Room and slow things down a little bit."
That was actually a very both players actually took like somewhat passive plays there, right? But now it actually pays off for Everett here because the Sword Dance and the Trick Room, so he's gonna be putting up a lot of pressure right now.
Yeah, Alberto's in a really rough spot here. There was no real way to kind of stop that Gothitelle from setting up that Trick Room after it went for that terrestrialization. So again, really fantastic choice with that normal terrestrialize, because then you don't have to worry about things like that Shadow Ball. And so now that you've set up both your Iron Hands as well, and again, there was absolutely no response in kind for that she was able to go for a Protect and sort of burn out this turn. And now you have to be worried about the speed between your Pokemon, right? Because now your Fluttermane and both your Chi-Yu are sort of in like really rough spots where you have to try to match damage that's going out right now, but you also have to burn Trick Room turns while this Iron Hands is at +2.
It is also kind of on Everett to make these calls here, right? Because both Pokemon do have Protect, if I don't...
Yeah,
and there we go. He reads the Protected.
Yeah, that Fluttermane was able to go for the Protect this turn, but Chi-Yu gonna go down from that Drain Punch as Gothitelle tries to go for the Psychic into that Fluttermane spot. So Alberto down a turn, and down one turn of Trick Room. Sorry, down a Pokemon, but down on a turn of Trick Room at least. Able to set up Garchomp, but Garchomp is scarfed and not really the fastest Pokemon on the field anymore because of that Trick Room setup.
I mean, this is still a okay position, I would say, for Alberto, right? Because he does have that typing advantage versus the Iron Hands. Can't really do too much to it with the moves it has. So, I mean, he could possibly use this to stall out of a couple turns, and if it's bulky enough too, you know, Labrufskin procs and whatnot.
Yeah, really all you have with the Iron Hands is to be able to go for something like the Drain Punch, because Wild Charge won't really do anything. And Alberto's saying, hey, you know what, if you want us to go aggressive, we're gonna go aggressive. Chooses to Terrestrialize this turn, gets that ground Terrestrialization onto that Garchomp, so those Earthquakes are gonna be absolutely terrifying. But the Wild Charge instead going into that Fluttermane, able to at least activate that Focus Sash. I mean, if we're going for Rock Slides here, you know, the flinches won't really matter as much right now. Iron Hands is gonna take some recoil damage from that Wild Charge. Gothitelle actually goes for Charm here, is going to knock that attack stack down by 2 stages. So Garchomp not going to be doing as much damage, but that Moonblast still able to put the Iron Hands within KO range. It gets a special attack drop, which really does not matter for that Iron Hands.
And what's actually very interesting here is actually this Fluttermane is slower. I mean, it's I would say it's slower than the Garchomp outside of Trick Room, because it did go before the Garchomp in Trick Room. So it's actually a very interesting speed tier. We could actually like.
Yeah,
think
it's
about
most
here.
likely just because of that choice graph that it has activated on it, so it is going to be locked into that stomping tantrum, which against this Golden Go would normally be really great in this sort of setup that we have right now. Not exactly the most fantastic thing, and you do have to worry now as Alberto, right? I think because you have the charm as well, you're not really in a spot where like the Garchomp is in a really safe place to really be going for any sort of like attack still, like even though you're locked into that stomping tantrum.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it is a little rough here for him, but I mean, I think he could. I think he's pretty successfully trying to like stall out these Trick Room turns. I mean, he didn't lose too much, and he actually got to end up getting a KO back. So I don't think it's like super bad for him right now. And he could always switch out the Flutter Mane because it's immune to the trapping.
Actually, Flutter Mage is going to stay in this turn. Goes for the Protect. Is still hanging on with that 1 HP. As Gothitelle actually goes for the Psychic into that Garchomp spot. So going to get some damage down and won't activate the Rough Skin either. But Goldengo going to go for the Make It Rain. Isn't going to pick up the knockout on Flutter Mane here, but is going to connect with that Garchomp. And that Garchomp says, alright, I definitely don't have enough in me to take that attack. The Goldengo does go down 1 stage of special attack for its troubles, but it is able to do its job, and that's taking out one of the heavy hitters on Alberto's team, which was that terrestrialized Garchomp.
Yeah, I mean, depends what Alberto has in the back here, right? Because, like I said, I was thinking maybe Corviknight could actually deal with a lot of the rest of these Pokemon, considering it's very bulky. And, yeah, we can see what's going on here. What he decides to do here.
Yeah, I think the funny thing too now is that the Terrasilize on the Gothitelle means that it's susceptible to body press, but we are just going to see a cancellation here from Alberto. So just conceding this first match, and I think a huge part of that is that turn 1 was just so in favor of Everett. You were able to get up the Trick Room, you were able to make sure your Terrasilize stopped a Shadow Ball, so no damage on your Gothitelle, and your Iron Hands got set up for Swords Dance.
Yeah, I mean, that was again, that was a great turn. I mean, it seemed passive at first, right? Especially in the face of Flutter Mane Chiyu that could just blow up your entire side like really easily, right? So I mean, Everett took the risk and it paid off. Let's see if he could maybe get away with it again, or maybe Alberto will adapt.
Yeah, we'll switch up the game plan a little bit. And I think the really scary part there is like there's no real way to punish a setup like that. And I think once the Iron Hands is set up, like even though you finally lost that Iron Hands, it did so much damage to everything else that the Goldengo just was kind of come in and just be able to sweep the rest of that team. Like, sure, the Garchomp could be scary once you terrestrialize it, once it has like all those boosted moves, but you're still in Trick Room, right? And I think the huge factor here is that Alberto has to really figure out, like, if you set up Trick Room that way, how do you take advantage of that and how do you stall it out?
Yeah, and I mean, I would say, I would say he has ways of stalling it out, right? But I mean, his team is just generally like pretty fast, so it's like it does have like kind of some trouble, right? I mean, it does have defensive pieces like Klefki, Corviknight, right? Maybe he could even go like a screens route, right? So he just takes less damage from all the Trick Room moves coming out, right? So we can see what he cooks up here.
Yeah, and I think a huge part of it is if you can stop Everett from setting up any sort of Trick Room shenanigans, then you're able to at least put the game back in your favor. Because again, Pokemon is really just, at the end of the day, I feel like it comes down to a game of speed. And Trick Room is its own version of speed because you're slowing things down and you're giving the speed advantage to your own Pokemon who are generally slower than others because of it. Flutter Mane and Chiyu, so no switch up here from Alberto either in terms of lead, but no switch up either from Everett. So we are going to see sort of the same thing happen, but I think Alberto's going to be a little bit more wary of the fact that you could expect a Terrasalization, or you can expect a Trick Room and a setup with Swords Dance.
Yeah, I mean, he could turn. Alberto actually could just end up going very aggressive here, right? Because he Everett took a kind of a passive play last time, but there's just a lot of fake out pressure coming out, so he needs to be wary of that. But at the same time, he might not be able to do like insane damage to the Fillloon Chiyu right now.
Yeah, I wonder if there is really a way for Alberto to put enough like offensive pressure to stop that Gothitelle from even setting up the Trick Room. We're seeing a fake out click into that Chiyu, which is at least able to stop one of the Pokemon on Alberto's side. I don't really know if that Flutter Mane has enough attack in it to be able to knock out the Gothitelle in one hit, because Gothitelle tend to be extremely bulky and are able to have a lot of staying power in terms of HP. We're going to see a Terrasalization though from Everett from the get-go is going to be that Fire type Terrasalization, just in case case that Moonblast does target it down again on this turn. So no Terrestrialization for that Gothitelle is not going to have any protection for that. And Flame might actually go for the Moonblast instead into it. Does have HP, but actually a really good call here from Everett as well, because he's like, hey, you know what? You're going to think that I'm going to go for the Terrestrial, like the normal type? No. It's going to be on the Iron Hand this time.
Yeah, and I mean, that was a good adaptation from the first game, right? Because I mean, Alberto could have just easily just Shadow Balled again, right? So it's a very, very good call. And I mean, Gothitelle doesn't go down crucially, right? So it turns out to be very in Everett's favor here.
Yeah, and like now this Iron Hands is going to be in a little bit of a better speed tier, so you kind of have to wonder, are you going to try to set it up or are you going to try to get some of the damage done? Because a huge part of what made it a threat last turn was the fact that it was at +2 with that Swords Dance, right? So now that you have the Iron Hands stopping that Chiyo for that one turn, now Iron Hands has to kind of figure out, am I going to take this turn to go for that Swords Dance? Is anything really going to knock me out here?
Yeah, I mean, even without Swords Dance, it's still a pretty potent Pokemon, right? You just go for the Drain Punch into there, but Alberto being very cautious here and protecting the Chiyo. We didn't see... Oh, and he goes for the Swords Dance.
Yeah, so we have a protect from both the Gothitelle and the Chiyo as that Iron Hand goes into a Swords Dance with that +2. Shadow Ball from the Fluttermane, though, not going to connect into the Gothitelle. So this Iron Hands, just like Game 1, is able to set up that Swords Dance without any sort of return. Or, sorry, without any punishment in that one.
Yeah, I mean, good call on Everett's part again, right? He knew he threatened the Chiyo there, so it had to take the extra turn, and now he tries to protect again, unfortunately fails.
Yeah, so no double protect here for the Chiyo, as it does go down to a +2 Drain Punch from that Iron Hands. Is going to be able, like, doesn't even have to worry about any sort of HP to get back because it was never hit in the first place. And Gothitelle going to follow up with the Psychic into the Fluttermane, is going to break the Sash here, and Shadow Ball finally going to be able to connect with something. Is going to be the Iron Hands. Doesn't do quite as much damage as like it could have, as Gothitelle is slowly getting back some of that HP thanks to its leftovers. We do still have, I think, about 2 turns of Trick Room left, so Alberto is going to have to really be careful about how he's going to play this game out now, because he did lose that Chiyo.
Yeah, I mean, his offensive pressure is gone, but at the same time, he is almost stalling out this Trick Room. So if he could keep this Fluttermane alive somehow, right, he can end up going for maybe like another Shadow Ball into the Gothitelle, because it cannot Terra Normal this time because Everett's already showed his hand.
Yeah, now we're actually going to see another Fire Terra type, and it's going to be that Corviknight as this time. So two Fire Terra types on the field now, so no extra boost of damage into that Fluttermane, but Fluttermane actually going to protect on this turn, saying, hey, I really don't want to get hit by any sort of move right now, as Iron Hands actually goes for the Wild Charge into that Corviknight, and does so much damage thanks to that +2, and this Corviknight in a really precarious position now because of it. Is going to be forced to eat that berry, but still not enough to get it into the green. Is going to be really in a bad spot next turn to be hit by another Wild Charge. So unless it's a Garchomp in the back to take that Wild Charge and not have to worry about it, but actually goes for a Bulk Up on this turn, so it's going to get a +1 to its attack and +1 to its defense. Might potentially be enough to stop a second Wild Charge.
Yeah, it might be enough, right? But I mean, it might be like a roll or something, right? But I mean, 1 turn of Trick Room left, so actually let's see how Alberto plays this, maybe switching out the Fluttermane to preserve it or something like that, right? Because right when that Trick Room goes down, he's applying enormous pressure to these guys, actually.
Yeah, I think this is going to be the turn to decide it, because this is Everett's last chance of Trick Room to set up. I don't know if Alberto's going to let him get another turn up, or get another round of Trick Room going after this one expires. And if Everett can capitalize on this last turn, it'll go really well for him, right? And I think right now you're really looking at what your biggest threat is, and I think it's right now it's that Fluttermane, because you saw the Corviknight take a lot of damage from that Wild Charge, and it did go for the Bulk Up. You know that has access to Roost. And it's really only big attackers are Body Press. Oof.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's gonna be rough there. As now the Psychic though from the Gothitelle going into that Corviknight. Corviknight taking this opportunity to go for a Roost and is saying, hey, all that HP I lost, don't even worry about it. I'm gonna get back some of it. Oy.
Maybe you might think that's like a little bit of an over prediction from Everett there, right? Thinking the Garchomp would switch in, right? But I mean, Alberto not budging on that, right? And in fact, I also thought he might switch in that Garchomp, so yeah.
Yeah, and hey, sometimes that's how it goes. Sometimes you have to try to make hard reasons. So now this Gothitelle's in a really precarious position because the speed advantage is back for Alberto. So the Iron Hands is still really scary, but if you can stop the Gothitelle from setting up Trick Room, you might be in a pretty okay spot. The other big thing that you have to worry about too is once you start knocking Pokemon out, Everett still has healthy Pokemon in the back, and Alberto's already down a Pokemon.
Yeah, but I mean, again, with all the speed advantage, right? I mean, Fluttermane has a good spread move that could probably take both KOs, and you know, maybe like a body press from Corviknight here that has a bulk up, right? So, I mean, you could say that Everett's actually just on the back foot here, right? But let's see if he can come back from this. Maybe set up another trick room.
All right, and Ironhead says, hey, you know, that Swords Dance boost I got, it doesn't matter to me anymore. I'm going to switch out, and Glimmora is actually going to take the place here as Dazzling Gleam is going to connect into both Pokemon. Gonna knock out the Gothitelle, so doesn't have to worry about Trick Room anymore. Actually, the... now that that Glimmora is going to have to take a Brave Bird and is going to activate those toxic spikes from that toxic debris, so a little bit rough here for Alberto because he is going to have to be worried about any sort of poisoning that's going to happen later on. So no Trick Room, but I don't think that Alberto is quite out of it yet.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, for sure. I mean, Everett has like so many like pretty decently healthy Pokemon in the back, right? And this Goldango can come in and just, you know, click Make It Rain once the conditions are good for it, right? But I mean, at the same time, I mean, we probably Alberto probably has brought Garchomp in the back, and I'll be honest, Garchomp does well into a lot of these Pokemon right now.
Yeah, and I think that's what Alberto's kind of trying to set up at the end game for, right? So we are going to see the Iron Hands being brought back in here with that fake out pressure. But if Garchomp, even being poisoned, if it's able to just at least get everything down within range of like clicking an Earthquake, then he's in a fantastic spot to push this to a game 3. It's just a matter of Alberto putting in a little bit more pressure or just chipping away slowly at the HP of those Pokemon, because once you're forced to bring in that Goldengo, Garchomp is just like, oh cool, it's dinner time here.
Oh yeah. I mean, all these Garchomp weak Pokemon, right? Just get a little chip on them, make sure the spread damage does KO, no rolls, just play it safe, you know. And maybe even if he loses like these two Pokemon, right, at least he might get good trip, but he's switching out the Corviknight, interestingly.
Yeah, so now we're actually going to see it is definitely that Garchomp, and Garchomp is going to be, alright, it's my turn to come to the party. Here is going to be poison, though, thanks to that toxic debris from earlier because of that Brave Bird, and so is going to have to worry about that. But Fluttermane protecting on this turn, Garchomp is definitely on its own sort of timer here, as Glimmora goes for the Power Gem into that Garchomp spot, does some damage into that, and Iron Hands goes for the Wild Charge in there, and the Protect for that Fluttermane is just saying absolutely not. You are in Garchomp's territory now.
Well, I mean, that was a good play from Alberto, right? I mean, it could have gone pretty wrong if they targeted the Garchomp slot with like maybe a fighting move or another like a poison move, but you know, I mean, he got in the Garchomp relatively safely, right? It's kind of on the clock, but I mean, he could definitely get stuff done now. Garchomp.
Yeah, I think before Garchomp's clock runs out, it's about to take things down before it's time for it to punch out, because honestly, everything on this field is looking like, hey, we do not like Earthquake, because now you can just switch out, the Fluttermane, bring in the Corviknight, lock yourself into Earthquake, and yeah, sure, you can worry about like maybe roosting later, but you don't have to worry actually. Ooh.
Corviknight does take this.
You will take the Earthquake on there. So, yeah, you just look at poison, and Corviknight's like, it's fine. I'm going to go down on the ship. I can't believe it survived.
It survived, but it goes down to poison.
Yeah, I was like, this Corviknight's going to go down to poison. So, that's fine. Garchomp is saying, I don't care who's on my side. Everything's going down with me. Because, I mean, we saw the Goldengo as the last one for Everett, right? Yeah. See, here's the thing about seeing a flying bird and not having it being a fighting type. It's like seeing Charizard not be a dragon type sometimes when I was a kid.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Yeah, and so, yeah, I mean, hey, Corviknight comes in just to say, okay, bye. But I actually do appreciate that because you saved the Fluttermane for the matchup with the Goldengo as well.
Yeah. And that's what I was saying, right? I mean, thinking that Corviknight was terrestrialized, he kind of had to hit something with the Earthquake, right? So, I mean, I think it's better that it wasn't the Fluttermane, to be fair.
I mean, it's like what that saying is, a bird in hand's worth 2 in the bush, right?
Yeah.
So you knock out your bird for the 2 other Pokemon on the other side. That's what it is, everyone.
Yeah.
But yeah, Fluttermane and Garchomp are on the field now, and they're just saying, hey, Goldengo, we know we're poisoned, but that doesn't matter. Because, you know, the fact that you were able to deny that second Trick Room, the fact that you were able to survive that first Trick Room, especially after that first game, just makes us actually say, okay, I understand my outs here, and I understand what I have to do.
And that was a very good, just consistent play there, just going for the Protect, not just double clicking moves into it, you know, the Fluttermane could go down. So yeah, just hitting that Earthquake, doesn't quite one-shot it actually, but I mean,
Yeah, now
if Flutterman could probably pick it up next turn if this Garchomp goes down.
Flutterman just says, hey, you know what, Garchomp, you didn't do your job properly. I'm here to clean up the rest of it, even though I think Garchomp got the most KOs in this game, including
for sure.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, like, it's just sort of the mark of how it is to play Pokemon in the best of 3 format, right? Where you're just like, all right, this is what happened game 1, here's my game plan game 2. And even though there was not really there was an interesting way where Trick Room was set up finally in the second game, and it feels like Everett was really like at an advantage. When you're able to at least when you're able to survive Trick Room with very minimal casualties, and you're able to stop the second Trick Room from going up, then you're in a really fantastic spot to just put yourself in the driver's seat and said, all right, cool, it's my turn to drive on this road, and you're just a passenger.
Yeah, especially, I mean, he really, like, he just played the long haul, right? He was able to survive. I mean, he made a lot of good calls into all the aggressive plays that Everett was making, and I mean, I mean, honestly, he somehow got out of it, you know, despite being in a pretty rough position.
I will say, I will say this again, and I think about Alberto. I think he's very good at playing for the end game, and he finds the ways to get there in like it. Even though at the beginning it always looks really rough, right? Like he knows how to take the hits so that he can set himself up for a potential game that usually involves the Garchomp, which is very interesting because, you know, we're so used to seeing Garchomp as a very like out of the gate heavy hitter.
Oh yeah.
And I don't know, maybe that we'll see much of a change from Everett. He might go and try to match the aggression as much as possible because you could do the Murkrow Golden Go like sort of route, right? But then after that happens, like how do you like? There's that route against this team feels like it has the potential to run out of gas very quickly.
Oh yeah, for sure, right? Because like, I mean, you get the Tailwind Earthquake off, but a little, I mean, as long as the Roaring Moon is terrifying, right? I mean, he has 2 ground immunities, right? So I mean, it could be rough, right? If Great Tusk decides just attack into like a few ground immune Pokemon and just not really get value. So.
Ooh, so a potential little bit of a change here for Everett. I think what's really fascinating here is that he's still going with that Gothitelle and the Iron Hands, and it really puts the pressure on Alberto to figure out which way Everett is going, right? Which is he going to terrestrialize into normal? Is he going to terrestrialize into fire? I guess it depends if he leads with the Chiyu Fluttermane again into this game 3, because that's really sort of what made it easier, I think, for Everett to make the decision here. And it is actually going to be the same lead for game 3, but for both players, it's going to be that Gothitelle Iron Hands again and that Chiyu and Fluttermane once more.
Yeah, I mean, both players really believing in their leads here, and they just think, you know what, I want to beat you with just outplaying you, right? Because they both think these are the best leads, and you know, I mean, we have to see what happens, right? It's gonna be very interesting. And we see the Terra Normal again. Let's see if he bites into that Shadow Ball this time around.
This is actually gonna be a really tough spot, right? Because you really want to set up Trick Room as much as possible when you're Everett, because that is the game plan that you have for this team. No terrestrializing, went back for that. Said you know what, maybe not this time. Decided to terrestrialize instead into. The Iron Hands. Sorry, I just
oh no, yeah, that's fine.
Magic card stuff just happened, that's why. Sorry, but we are going to be able to see that terrestrialization for Everett. So much like a mirror of game 2. So if Alberto can do that would be really fantastic, because if you can stop Trick Room from the get-go, you'll be in a fantastic spot.
Oh yeah, and he has no backup Trick Room setters here in this team either, right? So I mean, if he gets the Shadow Ball read right, let's see what happens.
And then fake out one more time into that Chiyu. We've barely been able to see the Chiyu do anything, but the Moonblast into the Iron Hands is going to happen. And so Gothitelle able to set up the Trick Room, so Alberto once more in the spot where he has to really play around the Trick Room, around Trick Room shenanigans.
Yeah, I mean, Alberto was in the spot kind of before last game too, so I mean, we've seen him play out of it at that time, so I mean, I'm sure he could play out of it now, right? So, let's see Lily what Hea is cooking here. I mean, there's a lot of mind games going on right now with however things have been playing out, right?
Yeah, Chiyu protecting itself against the Drain Punches. Psychic from Gothitelle goes into the Fluttermane, does some okay damage here, but Shadow Ball one more time from that Fluttermane, gonna go into the Iron Hands again. Is gonna knock it down to a little under a half, actually just to 64 HP. Is also gonna get the special defense drop here, which not cool. Oh, it could be a little bit actually important on top of like everything else. Would have been nice a turn ago, because I think then that would put it into like absolute knockout range.
Oh yeah.
But the Iron Hands is not really in a great spot to like really deal as much pressure as it did before, because now you've got sort of like this problem where like the Chiyu and the Fluttermane are like, yeah, sure, you're in Trick Room, but you can't do anything about it.
Yeah. And then actually, crucially, right? Last game that Chiyu actually went down to the Drain Punch, right? And he goes down again. So let's see how much he heals up and how much this Fluttermane will do to that.
Yeah, because the Fluttermane was able to get that special defense drop with Shadow Ball, but the Chi was gone now as well. So you're kind of in a rough spot. The Psychic from the Gothitelle did click into the Chi spot, but the Chi was gone. Fluttermane taking that pretty nicely, and Shadow Ball one more time into that Iron Hand spot is able to pick up that knockout. This Fluttermane, he just kept saying, hey, you know what? I don't need an item to knock out a Pokemon. My Focus Sash might have been broken, but it does not matter to me.
Yeah, and Everett, Everett kind of getting punished for, like, clicking into the Chiyu both times, right? Because, I mean, to him, it probably is the greatest threat to his team, right? But, I mean, this Fluttermane just able to run amok and just, you know...
It brushes off those Psychics.
Yeah, exactly, right? And it has a good special defense stat, so it's able to do that.
Yeah, it says, hey, you know what? I don't even care about that. I'm just going to go ahead and just click into a Shadow Ball because I'm going to take down something before I get knocked out and while all of this is happening. So we are going to see the Goldengo and the Corviknight to replace their fallen comrades. And we are still in Trick Room turns, but I feel like Everett has not been able to use it as much of his advantage as he was in the previous games.
Yeah, and I do agree on that, right? And I believe we have like 3 turns left. And you know, he's Alberto's in the advantage, right? He will always just actually just protect the Fluttermane here, and maybe go for a bulk up on the Corviknight because it's not going to die to any of the things this Goldengo might want to put out, you know.
Yeah, Fluttermane says, hey, you kept trying to hit me. No, we are hiding behind a Protect. The Psychic is not going to find a target here. Corviknight actually going for a Brave Bird instead into that Gothitelle. I think now is the moment where Alberto's like, hey, you know what? I do not like the fact that the Gothitelle can set up Trick Room, so we're going to start trying to get rid of it now. A Shadow Ball from that Goldengo actually does a lot of damage into that Corviknight. Is going to force it to eat that berry. And is gonna say, hey, I'm back up in the green, but now they are definitely aiming for that Gothitelle. That Gothitelle now is definitely in the crosshairs.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, for sure. I mean, Corviknight proved to be a pretty crucial piece of stalling out the Trick Room last game too, right? So I mean, if he could do it again, right? I mean, you just, since the terrestrializing has again already been burned, it is a nice free Shadow Ball. If the Fluttermane survives here, but it doesn't.
Yeah, Fluttermane's like, all right, well, I can't double protect now, but I am going to get knocked out on this turn. Corviknight going for another Brave Bird is going to target down that Gothitelle slowly. Is going to take a little bit of recoil damage for its troubles as Shadow Ball from Goldengo is going to go into that Corviknight one more time. We saw it do a considerable amount of damage. He's going to lose 2 Pokemon for his troubles there, which is going to just leave whatever's in the back, most likely that Garchomp that we're going to see. But I think you're actually not in a terrible spot with the Garchomp Pokemon because I think, yeah, I was going to say Trick Room expires on that turn, so that now your Garchomp is just going to be like, alright, no poison, there's no partner I have to worry about, and now I've got like, what, basically a free sort of attack here. I mean, yeah, you can protect this turn, but this Goldengo is in a rough spot and you have your terrestrialization.
Yeah.
Oh, this Garchomp is just, hey, it's like 5 o'clock here, which means it's dinner time for this Garchomp.
Oh yeah, no, that Shark Boy right there, right? Yeah.
It's going nom 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 nom.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean that was crucially, he did save his Terra there, so he can go for these Terra grounds. But I mean, the thing is with the Great Tusk in the back though, it is pretty physically bulky, so it might be down to survival as well later on in the game.
Yeah, a huge part of that too is if both Pokemon get knocked out here for that, then your Garchomp is doing single target Earthquake damage like boosted, right? If you can at least get rid of that Gothitelle. So Gothitelle is protecting itself, so making sure that it can at least split that damage with its partner.
Yeah, and I was about to mention that earlier, right? I mean, that's actually a good protect, right? Normally, maybe another player would just let that go down because, you know, it's not going to really do anything, but keeping the spread damage is really important, especially if this Great Tusk could just hit headlong rush into this Garchomp here.
Yeah, it's really just, I think, going to come down to how much damage can this Garchomp do. It is really unhindered in terms of its attack stat, right? It has that boost, it's at full health, and no charm from the Gothitelle like last time. I mean, you're really at a spot where, like, actually even Headlong Rush is scary, right? Because if you don't knock out the Garchomp in one turn, then Headlong Rush puts you in a position where Garchomp can just kind of knock you out immediately. Right, so it's Earthquake versus Earthquake, I think, here, because the problem with close combat and Headlong Rush is you're knocking down your defense stats and leaving yourself open to more damage from that Garchomp.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, he knows it's locked in, but I mean, he needs to get a little more consistency in there because he does not know if the headlong rush is going to KO.
Oh, and Gothitelle going for a double protect here is unable to find that second protect as Garchomp goes for the Earthquake. Again, boosted by that Terrestrialization. Is going to easily pick up the knockout here on that Gothitelle. Does almost no damage in that Great Tusk, and so it's time to see how Great Tusk responds in kind. Is gonna have to fire back its own Earthquake. Again, these are single target Earthquakes now. Does a lot of damage there. Oh, also does have that HP drop here. I think that might actually be putting it into the range of a knockout from that Garchomp.
And actually, very interestingly enough, with how much that Earthquake did, a Headlong might have actually KO'd there.
Yeah, that single target actually. Ooh.
Oh!
Oh no!
And there it is, the 2 HP survival.
Dang.
Oh.
Dang, that single target actually makes all the flipping. Sorry for everybody's ears at home because that is everybody else back behind us. That is wild. That is
what a finish.
Holy crackers. That's kind of wild. I mean, honestly, it's one of those that, like, I think that single target at that moment was the thing that I can't even find words.
I know that was crazy.
What's insane is I think Everett played that so perfectly at the end too, right? You protected, you make sure that you don't take that single target damage, and you can kind of see Everett shaking his head because he realized he had the life or recoil damage too, and it was just like, oh no, that puts me in a range now of that single target Earthquake. And holding on to 2HU was like, no, your first PC up here are going to get you to finals. So it is a little unfortunate because, you know, Alberto was hoping for a second PC win just to hit that finish, just to give him a little bit more for that trouble award for there. But I mean, hey, you know, you have day 2, so there's still NAIC. I know he's going to North American International.
He's probably going to get even more points at NAIC,
so
but I mean,
hey, every point counts, right?
Yeah, no,
so,
for sure, yeah.
But I mean, that's going to be oh man.
That was a really good finish.
That was insane.
Yeah, and I mean, I actually thought, you know, Everett might have misplayed there, not going for the headlong rush. So I was like, oh, okay. I mean, because with how much that
he did too. No, I think he did too, because you saw him, like, once he realized that the life orb damage happened, he was like, oh no.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because I mean, that Earthquake was, I believe the Earthquake from Great Tusk was also single target, right?
It was, but he was the single target first, right?
Yeah.
And so it, oh my gosh, that protector that Gothitelle was like, I will go down at the last second if I have to.
Yeah.
So really the MVP of that game, I think. So
yeah, taking the spread damage. It's like get down, Mr. President.
Yeah. All right, so we are going to take a cool. My heart rate. I don't even want to know what my heart rate looks like. I don't even want to know what their heart rate looks like.
Yeah, that was a banger.
We are just gonna go into finals in just a moment. So give us a second to collect ourselves, and then we'll be right back with you for your finals with Everett versus whoever won the other half of top 4.
Yep. All right. See you guys.